Yeah. Don't know if there's actually somebody watching this or not, but I'm gonna wait for a few people to get in here before you start anything. This is actually mad. I gotta share this link. Right. Welcome, everyone. Just waiting for a few more people to jump in and we get straight into it. You guys have got any requests for any charts to look at as well in the meantime? Feel free to put them in the chat. Quick retweet. I'm not expecting too many people in this, to be fair. Haven't posted in a long time. Shout out to everyone that's here though. Regardless of however many people join, we'll get this moving soon. Get this moving in 3 minutes. So I don't know if you guys want to just sit back, chill, give it 2-3 minutes, and we'll get the ball rolling. Hmm. Alright, so we give it 2 more minutes. Hmm. All right, cool. So, let's just give a little bit of context while we're waiting for a few people to jump in. Let me mute my own laptop as well. Yeah, trust me. All right, let me check in with the stream if anyone's actually still in here. Is it still running? Okay, we're good. We're good. Trust me. All right, let me check in with the stream if anyone's actually still in here. Is it still running? Okay, we're good. We're good. Trust me. All right, let me check in with the stream if anyone's actually still in here. Is it still running? Turn this down. Button. Boom. Boom. Got a delay now. Oh, guys, I'm sorry, man. I don't do this at all or too often. Let me see if I can try and fix that. I think I know what's going on. Hold up. If I was to take this off. Testing. Is that any better? We're good. We're good. Last issue. This is the last hurdle. Charger. Cool. It's on charge. Put one last tweet out. I'll see. All good. Yes. Calm. All right. Perfect. Cool. 1 second, people. So see. Come over here. Okay, let's do it. So that's stressful. Let's have a look at this on a daily. Actually, so we're looking at XRP against Tether. We only got the data back until 2018. To be honest with you, for this video, that's more than fine. Ignore this big spike here when it starts, but just pay attention to this zone here, right? And see that this zone has been in play since basically the whole bear market. The reason why this is all important is, and let's just back up and give it some perspective, is you've probably seen me rambling on Twitter about territories and blah 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 blah. So now what this is me just trying to like completely dumb down all types of price action from the last bull market, but
as you know, before the last cycle, prices were even lower than they were before. None of this is accurate, by the way. Just take it for what it is. We saw the last bull market come in, and then yeah, so I'm sure everyone's familiar with that. But in this whole situation, is we've been on like one gigantic um what's let me make this a little bit more neat. We've been in one gargantuan like Goliath buyer's territory. Now, this universe, you can look at it like this is the Godfather, like this is like the biggest universe about. Let me just check that the audio's okay. So we're all good. Is everyone following, yeah? I think there's a little delay. But yeah, I'm not seeing anything bad, so I think we're in the clear. All right, cool. So we've got this buyer's territory from a long time ago. Now, what I'm trying to explain is, so I talk about this eclipse situation a lot on Twitter as well, yeah? So that, think about that. And I'm not one of these astrology guys or anything. I don't believe in horoscopes or anything funky like that. But what it is you have the sun, you have the moon, and you have the earth, and they're all aligned for that moment in time, and they all say the same thing, right? Okay. What an eclipse is for us, and what does that mean to us, is basically when and I think this is becoming evident already if it hasn't clicked for anyone already, but when our biggest universes, for example, like this guy who we know who's been holding the market, and we know that's on a monthly time frame, we might have like a weekly time frame, midterm. I say midterm, super long, but in the grand scheme of things, it's all relative. But in the midterm, you've got sellers holding that market down, and then in the short term, for example, you might have like buying momentums going on within these whole things. So the whole thing behind this whole eclipse was that in order for XRP to go on to do this whole new bull run that we're gearing up to do, the first thing that inevitably needs to happen is this zone where the sellers keep smacking prices back down from. That zone needs to be overthrown. And we'll get into like the nitty gritty of this as well, because that's the top end of that zone. And you could look at that like the liquidity above an area, and here's probably the bottom of that zone. And so this is the whole area that we're looking at here, yeah. There is no lines in this stuff. With all due respect, like, nah, man, ain't got nothing good to say, don't say it. But yeah, like just trend lines and stuff like that, like it's gonna hurt, especially if you're dealing with leverage. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the whole investment side of things. So long story short, as of right now, we've got number one, we've got this Goliath monthly universe saying I'm holding the market up. Yeah. Now for the midterm universe, quote unquote, we've got a whole bear market going on, and this is the area that was holding it. So I think I got on Twitter somewhere around the end of January, it was like January 28th. So this was the whole SEC case. I say this was when the whole news really dropped, and then we entered again into, because if you look at things, watch this now. Buyers don't have nothing to say against that. Just watch it. Just watch it. I'll explain more later. Buyers don't really have anything to say again. Now you can see on a small scale, yeah, the buyers had more to say than the sellers who took it down from here. But these aren't the sellers that are holding this market down. This market's being held down from the sellers over here. These buyers don't even get up to challenge them. Barely. Right? Okay, cool. That being said, if they barely challenge them, how can they overthrow them? So this whole thing of whose control it's in, whose ball it is, it continues, yeah. Anyway, sellers continue holding the market. And again, when I'm saying the buyers don't have anything to say against it, let's get into the nitty gritty, because I feel like I'm just skipping over a lot of stuff because obviously the first one we didn't have any audio. But look, have a look at this, yeah. Just look at these situations here and watch the momentum inside them. I can't even get rid of this. Go. Power of the cells coming down and how far they're moving down versus look at how the buyers are grinding up. So it's like whenever the sellers really say something, the buyers don't actually have much to say about it. In this situation, have a look at this. So the cells are coming in from like this area here. The buyers get in to like try and challenge where it comes from, and then the same sellers that are sitting in here slap the market right back down. But do they make a lower low? Because in this whole sequence, you could be one of those guys where, we'll get into this a little bit later, but in the grand scheme of things, if I could just show you this here. Remember how we said that we're working with zones and not lines? So this really down here isn't a lower low. Although prices did go there, in the grand scheme of things, they didn't hold there. If that's making sense to you guys. I know it does look like it printed lower, but did it hold? And no, it didn't. And the thing is, the reason why it didn't hold is, if we had more information, we could go back and reference it, but it's not there. But that's another story. Anyway, so now we're tracking this, and where we wanted to pick this information up from was, or the data up from, was from where this SEC case came in. So we had the whole story refresh and sellers holding the market down from here again. So in terms of this eclipse, we've got the biggest guy saying this guy saying this, and to be honest with you, once this happened here, anyone who's looking at this market should be looking to actually, let me not even go there. That's just gonna muddy this information up. So we're just watching the story here, and what we do see is the first time in this whole situation where the buyers don't really have too much to say against where the sellers are coming from. The first time that we do actually do that is around here, yeah. And this is where we had that crippling news coming from the SEC, but we saw, okay, cool, there's a buyer sitting here, number one, and that buyer has just shifted the momentum from this sell side, and you can see the strength of these cells, and they're getting weaker every time. Ability to make a lower low, depleting, and essentially now the buyers step back in after. Oh, let me delete everything on here real quick. But as you can see, sellers trying to make a low, can't do it. Buyers reactivate. This is the first time that they shift the momentum. After here, you get a whole test area, then you get this move, because now you remember how I've explained certain things, not certain things, but everything needs to show up in the smallest time frames, smallest universes, and if it's valid, then those setups will play out and manifest into the bigger universes. So if we're talking about reversals, etc. So we've got this first bit here, news drops. Right. Zoom in. Okay, cool. So that news drops there. Need to stop doing that. Control Z's not working for me. All right, cool. So can't see too much here, but let's go down onto the 4 hour. Let's look at the situation real quick. So watching it from here, right? And what we can see is the initial wave come in, bounce, prices hold, they come down and they retest the lows. But is there much of a difference between this whole area? Just because it prints a little bit under, is it really a lower low to... Okay, I think I made my point in that. But anyway, long story short, is now on the second attempt it does to make a lower low, it can't do that. and we see an equilibrium again play out with the buyers. Again, like clockwork, like the first time that it happened, because now we're talking about the 27th or 28th of January. We've got a whole test area after we see the momentum shift between the buyers and sellers. Now we're watching to see that no lower lows can be made, no lower lows can be made. We might even use this MACD for confluence if that's you. It's on the bottom of my list. And then basically the charts are primed for it. This is where I got onto Twitter as well. This is where I started saying, look, buy XRP, buy XRP, buy XRP, because something mad's gonna happen. We've got this run up here. Now, don't watch too much that. Obviously, it was such an impulsive move, and it got up to that same area where we know that seller is, that slaps things down, and that whole bear market area that we've been talking about. Just watch this. You can see the average price moving across here. And what we can tell is initially when this did happen, there was a lot of power behind it. And then what we saw was, if you looked at it on a miniature perspective, so you just looked at this picture here, what you could see was, maybe you could even take the data going all the way back to here, even, because you're looking at this last area, which is take the last seller that's holding the market down. Last sellers holding the market down here. That's where they're sitting. They got defeated. This isn't support. This is a breach line. This is where price breached those previous guys. And what we then wait to see is it real? So as we saw this huge spike up, spike down, it was crazy to see, but we needed to see, are we going to consolidate prices above this area? And if you were around that time, then obviously we were catching all of this and covering all of this. But long story short, again, what we had coming out of this situation now was the people that got in late. Obviously, once they've seen, you remember the February 1st, February 2nd pump, and then obviously people would have got in late or after, again, because you got to remember at the start of a move, there's not so many people in it, but the longer a move goes, or once people see big green candles, they want to replicate, or when people see someone do something that works, they want to replicate that behavior. So the way that I kind of think about it always is, if you ever hear about an opportunity, it's always too late, like definitely from the news and different mediums and things like that. But anyway, so covering this whole situation between this, just to cover, recap, got the big one there. In the medium term, we're dealing with seller's territory reinstated here, but now we're actually dealing with, for the first time, and you can look back over the whole last few years, for the first time now we're starting to deal with a momentum shift coming back the other way. And what we've got is an equilibrium between this seller and this buyer, because look at where they go and look at where they come from, right? From this situation here, we needed to see, okay, and this is why I say things need to happen on the smallest universes first, because this was the first buyer's territory within here that we breached and we came up onto. We held that. We were all above the breach line. And one thing I want to tell you guys is that just because something comes down to test the guy who started it, it doesn't mean that it's turned into seller's territory. It doesn't mean he's rolled over and gave over his throne. It doesn't mean that things have turned into a sell. Price can even come down and test him and even get under him. And I'm sure you've seen things just spike up and then continue, and then as like not even go for the sell. So that's the reason why, because you've got to know your territories. You've got to know who's holding the market. And as of right now, or as of then, I should say, it was this guy, and then that guy was able to hold all of this price action, was being held up by him. Now, once he made this next breach, this is where things got really juicy, because this was in between that 73 to like $1 area, where if we had enough data, and let me see if we've got some, but yeah, as you can see, this whole 70 to like $1 area over here, which was really, really messy. This whole zone was this whole area that things just fly up into and get slapped back down from. So we're waiting for this eclipse, because once this area breaks, what we'll have, my friends, is this Goliath territory saying we want to buy, we're going up, What we're also going to have is the midterm saying buy mode, okay? But just because it's broken him, what happens if this happens and then it comes straight back down like this? It's not valid, because whatever happened in that zone, it held it and prices are back below it. So we're watching it, and literally all I said at that point was we're waiting to see if this consolidates. So we're watching. Boom. This is for why you don't get into something late. For everyone looking at this like support's gonna save us. The one thing is, you gotta understand this is all really psychological, and you see with crypto, I would argue crypto is even more psychologically driven than other markets. But essentially, you got to think of things like this, like the average guy, when he's looking at things and he's looking at this area as his support, and then you've got an area just underneath support is going to be, well, even this area is not going to be his go-to support. His first support is going to be, for instance, in here. And don't get me wrong, you can squeeze a couple trades out of this if you're watching this and you're day trading this, you're looking at it in a smaller time frames, and you're not just catching a falling knife. Because as you can see, if you're just trying to hit a buy just based off of a support line, these things will liquidate you. These spikes will liquidate you. And anyway, long story short is, these when this doesn't hold and these people get liquidated, what tends to happen is, for all of their sells to close, for all of their buys to close, they have to sell their positions, which means more selling happens. So basically, that selling causes more selling, right? And now there's more sales come into the market, and it crashes further. And now what you start seeing is, you see, once you come into these areas here, like imagine most retail traders by now, they're completely done and they've capitulated, especially if they were buying from up here. Even the guys who bought in from around here, they would be struggling, or if not, when they're seeing price come down towards them as it has, they might even close their positions just off of risk management and just having no idea what's happening with the market at that moment. So anyway, that being said, you've got all types of people who used to be buyers turning into sellers. You've got people who are watching some red candles form and they're trying to sell with those candles as well. You've got them stepping into the market. Then what we start seeing in and around these areas here is, I know we're on the what are we on right now? We're on the daily chart. Okay, let's go on to the 4. The 4 is better. We can see more information on this one now. So the reason why we're having this conversation today, and the reason why we're doing this live, is the most recent thing. Like we said, we're watching price when he went up from here. This was the last guy, took the market up, waiting for this consolidation. And almost like his textbook, let me delete everything really quickly, let me zoom out. This is almost like his textbook. Look, where's this all happening? And remember, I told you, this isn't just a line, it's a whole zone. But this whole consolidation, just above the breach line of this. And remember what I've told you. Even if we get a situation where we go down and even test 60 cents, as we did here, and these could just be quick spikes, or it could even bottom out like this before it continues. Long story short, with territories, and that wasn't a prediction, by the way, what I just did there, but with territories, long story short, until this guy gives up his throne, you need to stay with a buy bias. What that means is, be smart about this, and obviously it's not financial advice, but if you see something running like this, don't buy it like this. Like, if I don't buy it now, then I won't get my chance to get a Ferrari, or I won't get my chance to get a Lamborghini, or whatever it might be that you want. Yeah, you got to be patient with these things. You got to think of these things and like apply real life logic. You see price start running away from you on XRP or anything else, and you start feeling FOMO. But then if it's Black Friday, you will wait for like an hour or 2 hours in a queue just to get stuff for the low. So trading and investing isn't any different from real life. It's just people lose that sense of real life when they're in that arena. Anyway, this isn't like a whole chat about those things there. What we want to talk about is this consolidation itself. So First thing that we're looking at is the strength that the sellers have in this move, and we'll dissect the move further. Let's break it down a little bit more. Let me just check that nothing's going wrong with this. Yes, fine. $10 this year, 88 cents now. All right, cool. Not making predictions, but likely. We'll see. Anyway, what we're seeing here. So let me sip my drink. As you can tell, this is completely unscripted, and I'm trying to remember everything that I covered in the first video that I did. We're looking at this. Oh, let me show you guys something quickly as well. So this is a concept which I use to gauge momentum, and this basically shows you the overall health of, you can say, a trend or a movement, whatever you want to call it. So I want you to imagine a guy with like a rubber band around his waist, and this is how I was taught. And basically this guy now, you're looking at him and he's like your runner, and say you're watching him and you're like, he's our runner, we've got money on him, he's looking good. When he's looking good, you're feeling good. When he's not looking so good, obviously you've got money on him, so you're like, eee, gulp. Anyway, take this for example. If your runner runs, for example, let's say 10 meters, and it pulls him back, this rubber band on his waist pulls him back 2 meters or 2.5 meters, so he came back about 25%. It's still healthy. You can say, well, he got pretty far, he rested a bit, but he's still looking healthy, right? That's fine. Let's say he's run, I don't know, 50 meters and there's barely any rest at all. That's interesting as well. But one thing you can say is this guy must be really strong. Like he's literally showing me that he doesn't even need any rest. He's maintaining those prices. He's holding those prices. He's holding ground. What about if you've got a situation where, let's say you run 10 meters, but then something pulls you back 10 meters as well? How are you feeling about this guy that's running? And this is the same as like gauging momentum with price movements, because it gets a little bit more nuanced, but this is basically the basics of it. Let's say, for example, let's say I ran 10 meters apart from this rubber band pulled me back, I don't know, 25 meters. What's that saying? How's that making you feel? What how do you feel, or how do you think that would affect momentum? So all of this stuff, it comes into it. And essentially so I'll show you how you could have basically seen this whole situation come here, right? So you see this first run that we did, big impulsive run up, and we made this high like around here. This, for those of you who need things to be neat, around there. Again, this is like, this price didn't really hold up here. If you wanted to put this over here, that's fine. It doesn't really make a difference. We'll just leave it here for the time being. So you see the seller step in from this area here, and they make their way down here. And then inside this pullback, you can see buyers don't have anything to say. Buyers don't have anything to say. And eventually you get this situation here where you've got an equilibrium between the buyers and sellers. Yeah. Now, after this situation, we're waiting for some type of test to see that no lower low can get made by the seller. And in that, we can literally see seller's got nothing in him. And then we see a couple buys happening from this area. Okay. So these buys that are happening out here, yeah, notice that none of them ever had the ability to make a higher high. Furthermore, start looking at things like this. Look at the state of him. So we've spoken about this. Still healthy, still healthy, still healthy. Now look at this. It's doing well. It's doing well, but now we're getting into the area that we were in before, and now we're looking for a higher high. And although he's holding, sorry about that. Although we're holding, we're not really seeing anything happen from the buy side either at the moment. Then we see the buyers try and come up and then almost get rejected just outside of this area. And then after that, the buyers don't have anything to say about it. And then we can see the sellers come back in, step in. And the interesting thing is, where does the seller come from and go to? Where did the buyer come from and where did he go to? So it's 100%, right? So as far as he ran, that's as far as he dropped. Notice one thing at this moment, and this is nuance. One candle up, probably about 6 or 7 or 8 candles down. So although he did come back, we can see he got there faster. So we can see that he's still got gas in his tank, and he's still going to go for a couple of attempts before he's done. And if he doesn't make a higher high, then the sellers are going to take over the ball. So next run comes in, attempts again, unable to do anything, unable to do anything. Final attempt here, and now this is where it got a bit dire for this buy, because as you can see, what's happened now is a miniature seller's territory is formed. Here's the seller holding it, right? And now the emphasis has changed. Now, before we had a buy, and okay, cool, you came, tested the buyer who took it up, but now we're dealing with a whole seller's territory as well. Now watch this. Look at the strength of the sell which came down, and look at the weakness of these buyers grinding up. They've got nothing to say against the sell, and the sellers again dominate to where? To this same area. Okay, interesting, because this same area would be the liquidity behind this guy who's holding the market up. It's not coincidence. Anyway, so once we look at this area here, we see, hold on, another little shift of momentum. So the buyer wants to give this another attempt, and then we see one final attempt at this, and we see just a rollover, and sellers take over the ball. Okay, cool. So we know in the short term it's not going to be a situation like this, and it's going to continue. Some people could have taken risk or exposure off of the table in and around this moment. If you're a trader, you could have sold in here, and that's just understanding the momentum and how things are changing. Anyway, so with that knowledge, now what I want to talk to you guys about is this move here. So notice the first move that came down and where it went to test, which was this area here, and it rejected off of that area there. Okay, cool. Bounced up, held. Second move started, and it came down to here. All right, cool. Now what we're watching is this. So we've got this area here, which is responsible for holding down the market, which is under here. So just because we've got situations like this, which I'm going to get into in a second, it doesn't mean that this whole situation or this whole snapshot has changed its mind yet. So what I mean by that is, as I said, things have to manifest in the smallest universe before they can come into a higher universe. And what I mean by that is, now look at this. So look at the correction come in, and trust me, if you are one of these guys that were looking at this as a support and your stop loss was here, for example, or you're looking at this area, for example, as a support area to get in, and so the stop loss would have been here. All types of capitulation all over the place. Yeah. With all of that being said, let's delete this all. Let's summarize this quickly. This comes to challenge this. This is the guy that's holding up this market. I don't know where this line was, but it was somewhere around here. That was the breach line from before. Let's just go and look. Yeah, like somewhere around there. All right. And now what we're starting to see is, after this whole correction, and it's a dirty correction as well, after all of these capitulations, what we're starting to notice is all of this accumulation. And the reason why I call it accumulation is, and we'll get onto this later, but all of the selling pressure in this is drying up. And the reason we can tell that is, watch this. Sorry, one sec. So watch this area here. Again, buyers don't have nothing to say about it, but this last seller, this guy here, prices come down, they're grinding, and now the buyers finally, they come back up 100%, and they're finally testing that same seller that took the market down. Now, we're not out of the woods until we clear this area, but I'm gonna bring that up in a second. in the smaller universe though, this was a momentum shift here. Yeah. After this, what we're looking at is a test, and in the test, we just need to make sure that we can't make any lower low. We need to, and based off of our conviction whether no lower low can be made, we then anticipate, we don't participate, and then somewhere around these lows we'd be looking to buy in. Now, why would we be looking to buy into these lows? Because we're looking at the strength of the sellers, very strong. Or let's look at it like this: first run, very strong; second run, strong, not as. Weakening, weakening. Still, if you're looking at these in the smaller time frames, like the 15 minutes, these are going to be quite drastic. However, what you're starting to see is with each run, the seller getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And you can tell that just by looking at the momentum, like the power that the seller has in this area down here is nowhere near the same power that he has in this area over here. And this behavior here is not the same as the guy who put in this behavior here. So with all of that being said, and remember, I think in a previous video I mentioned with MACD, I just literally use it as like, if there was a totem pole, it would be at the bottom of it. With this MACD, we're basically just looking, does this agree with our story? Is this in confluence with what we're saying? And what you start to see as well on the MACD as well is we just look at these lows. We look at these lows here. Start seeing a bullish divergence, right? And this is before we get the big, eventually we will get a move that comes up to here, challenges this area here, and then we will consolidate again, and then that's where things will continue from in the future. Where they go, this isn't a video for that. This isn't obviously a price prediction. Obviously everyone needs to be aware of sellers in this area as well, going into the future. But in a moment where this situation happens and the buyer's momentum's back, we'll be looking to, if not at least challenge, but break these sellers. So I will say that. But in the grand scheme of things, let me just wrap this up as well now. Got confluence on our MACD as well, confirming our story. This basically you could go back to now on Bitcoin, and you could literally look at Bitcoin's chart. You can apply the same knowledge, and I'm sorry that this has gone on for a little while, but apply the same knowledge to Bitcoin. Look at who was the last guy responsible for taking up the market. And this is why I'm trying to do these things for you guys, so you guys can actually see what's going on. Look, after this guy took the market up with Bitcoin, and look, don't be the guy who's like, please, like, you got to look at things in terms of zones, right? Don't be the guy who's like, yeah, well, that's 61k there and that's 63k there, they're higher highs. Look, we never made a higher high off of this whole situation here. Apply the momentum thing that I've just taught you guys. Apply all of that stuff that I've just told you, and then also apply the fact that this is the guy holding the market. This is where we've come and tested to. This is where we're consolidating. Guys, I think I'm gonna leave it here. I'm gonna take some questions. If anybody's got any questions, if anyone's got any charts they want me to look at quickly as well, I'll have a look at them for you. Oh man. Alright, cool. I think I'm gonna leave it there then. But yeah, as long as you don't know your territories, you know what direction the market's in. Obviously, until this breaks here, we are not in a bear market. Don't let nobody gas you. Don't let nobody tell you different. Just because people have lost P's because they were looking at this whole area as a support, and if support breaks, then yeah, don't listen to all of that. You guys know territories, and you should know how to gauge some momentum now as well. So yeah, man, I'm gonna leave it there. Price target for the end of the year. I'm not gonna lie, Ron. I'm not really trying to do price targets, to be honest with you, because you can use fractals, you can use other things, I guess, like you can use Fibonacci extensions to, I guess, plot what if, I mean, the past was to reoccur and we had something similar to a previous run. I mean, we've got certain predictions. Personally, and I don't have the expertise, and I'll keep it real. I don't have the expertise to say whether it's gonna be $10 or $20 or $30. I'll just keep it real with you. But what I can tell you is with data that I can look at and price action and on the way there, I wouldn't be surprised if we hit $10 this year at all. Um, so I guess I'll leave it at that, to be honest with you. I know it's not a great answer. You're probably looking for a little bit more than that, but um, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of other YouTubers that have plotted fractals up against the chart and plotted what it would mean. But yeah, man. I hope this has been helpful to you guys. Though, anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. I'll catch you guys sometime soon. Good luck. Do your own research. Obviously, educational purposes only, not financial advice. Yada yada yada. But yeah, man. If you're in crypto right now, you're gonna be rewarded for it. All right, signing out. Let me end this stream now.